Good day, everyone. I am Sophia Elaine T. Fabregas from BS Ed Mathematics 3. Chapter 4, our topic is all about evaluating the curriculum. So let me read to you the desired learning outcome first. Acquire clear understanding of what curriculum evaluation is. Number 2, explain the need to evaluate the curriculum and how it's being done. Number 3, expand knowledge about different curriculum evaluation models. So first, curriculum evaluation is a new idea for many teachers, not knowing that every day the teacher is involved in several components of evaluation. There are two ways of looking at the curriculum. So later on, I will tackle about the two ways of on how to looking at curriculum evaluation. So first, we have the curriculum program evaluation. Refers to the overall aspects of curriculum as a subject degree program, curriculum reform program, and the like. Some examples are the development as a subject. So, what is the curriculum development as a subject? In bachelor education, we have the program student to take a course titled Curriculum Development. In this subject, yes, they learn how to design learning objectives, select and organize content, choose appropriate teaching strategies, develop assessment tools, and last, we have the evaluate and revise the curriculum. So, second, we have Bachelor of Education as a degree. So, ano nga ba ang Bachelor of Education as a degree? So, Bachelor Education as a degree, it is the professional degree that prepares student to become a licensed teacher. A student enrolled in this degree studies like educational philosophy, curriculum development, assessment of learning, teaching strategies, classroom management, practice teaching or internship in educators. Then after completing the degree and passing the licensure examination, the graduate can teach in elementary or secondary school. So second, we have the K to 12 as a curricular reform. So this reform aimed to align Philippine education with international standard. It provides specialization tracks like academic, TVL, arts and design, sports. It is also improved the employability and the college readiness. So it is also preparing to if you're going to college, for example, in grade 12 or grade 11 and grade 12, we have the what's so called research, practical 1 and practical research 1 and practical research 2. In college naman, ma-encounter din natin yung research, 'di ba? Like sa amin last sem is may research kami which is the research in mathematics 3. So next, outcome-based education as a process naman. So naano nyo kanina yung curriculum development is as a subject and Bachelor of Education as a degree and K to 12 as a reform. So next naman is outcome-based education as a process naman. So instead of starting with content, teacher starts with learning outcomes. Example, in practice, the students is able to like real life quadratic equation problems, teaching activities, problem solving workshops, group task assessment, and performance tasks and project demonstrating mastery. So sa mother tongue based multilingual education are sub program. So for elementary education, they are familiar with the mother tongue based multilingual education as a program. So this education or MTB, is a program where students from kindergarten to grade 3 are taught using their first language or the mother tongue. The goal of this program are to improve comprehension and literacy. It strengthen cultural identity, also make learning more accessible to young learners. So, yan yung cover ng number 1, yung curriculum program evaluation. So, let's jump to number 2. Components of a curricular program. This will cover separate evaluation for a curriculum component such as achieve learning outcomes, teaching learning process, instruction, materials, assessment of learning outcomes. So sa this lesson, it teaches that each part of the curriculum must be reviewed to make sure the whole program works effectively. So first lesson will attempt to teach as how to look into curriculum evaluation from two examples, which are curriculum program evaluation and using the curriculum evaluation models and curriculum evaluation of the specific components of curriculum program, as in instructional materials evaluation like books or modules. In lesson 2 will be all about curriculum evaluation in the classroom for formative and summative assessment of the achieved learning outcomes. For lesson 1 is about understanding how curriculum is evaluated in two ways. First, we have the looks at evaluating the whole curriculum program using different evaluation models. Second, it focuses on evaluating specific parts of curriculum such as instructional materials like books and modules to check if they are effective and appropriate. Sa lesson 2 naman, it focuses first lesson na 'di ba will be all about curriculum evaluation in the classroom. So it focuses on curriculum evaluation inside the classroom. It explains how formative assessment, ongoing check during learning, and summative assessment or the final evaluation after learning to see if the learning outcomes were achieved. Okay, I hope you understand my part, and that's all. Thank you.
Good day, ma'am. I am Jessa J. R. Valdez, and this is the continuation of Chapter 4, Evaluating the Curriculum. Curriculum Evaluation, a Process and a Tool. Do you have a clear understanding of what curriculum evaluation is all about? Is it synonymous to assessment of learning? An analysis of the various definitions reveals that evaluation is both a process and a tool. As a process, it follows a procedure based on models and frameworks to get to the desired results. As a tool, it will help teachers and program implementers to judge the worth and the merit of the program and innovation or curricular change. For both process and a tool, the result of evaluation will be the basis to improve curriculum. So, curriculum evaluation is a process to assess the quality, the effectiveness, and kung ano ba yung impact ng curriculum on student learning. Curriculum evaluation and assessment of learning are not synonymous because assessment of learning is measure niya yung ano yung natutunan ng isang estudyante while curriculum evaluation is ini-examine niya yung quality and effectiveness ng curriculum itself. Curriculum evaluation as a process is may fina-follow siyang steps or procedure para ma-achieve yung desired result, while curriculum evaluation as a tool help the implementers to judge the worth of the curriculum or okay ba yung naging pagbabago ng curriculum, nakakabuti ba ito sa mga estudyante or good enough na ba to or kailangan pang i-innovate or i-change. And both a process and a tool can improve the curriculum. Let's look at how curricularists define curriculum evaluation. Alan C. Ornstein and Francis P. Hankins. Curriculum evaluation is a process done in order to gather data that enables one to decide whether to accept, change, eliminate the whole curriculum of a textbook. So, based on them, curriculum evaluation is a process para makagather sila ng data and information para makadecide kung yung isang curriculum ba ay tatanggapin yung pagbabago or may kailangan pang baguhin or kailangan nang mawala ng isang curriculum for the better improvement. John D. McNeil. Evaluation answers two questions. First, do planned learning opportunities, programs, courses, and activities as developed and organized actually produce desired result? Second, how can a curriculum best be improved? So, based on McNeil, first question is like setting a goal kung na-achieve ba ng curriculum yung work niya or yung responsibility niya para sa student or sa learners. Kung naging maayos ba ang desired outcomes ng isang curriculum? And second is kung paano ito ma-improve, kung ano yung mga dapat gawin para mas maging ma-improve yung isang curriculum. GAT-L. Evaluation is to identify the weaknesses and strengths as well as problems encountered in the implementation to improve the curriculum development process. It is to determine the effectiveness and the returns on allocated finances. So, based on GAT-L, curriculum evaluation is a way para makita yung strength and weakness ng isang curriculum, kung saan ba naging matibay yung isang curriculum, kung paano ito nagwo-work, at kung worth it ba yung ginagastos para sa pag-implement ng isang curriculum. And also, kapag nakita yung weakness ng isang curriculum is mas mai-improve pa siya o mas ma-develop. Peter Oliva. It is a process of delineating, obtaining, and providing useful information for judging alternatives for purposes of modifying or eliminating the curriculum. So, based on Peter Oliva, curriculum evaluation is a way of collecting data, gathering information para malaman kung ano pa ba yung dapat i-evaluate, kung ano pa yung dapat i-modify, and makakapag-decide kung i-eliminate na ba ang isang curriculum or kailangan lang ng changes or i-modify lamang ang isang curriculum. That's all.
Good day. This is the continuation of our report. I'm Loren Sirongan. My topic is the reasons for curriculum evaluation. Why is there a need to evaluate a curriculum? The curriculum processes presented by Tyler, Taba, and others at the end of the line or circle undergo an evaluation. All of them agree that planning, designing, and implementing are less useful unless there is evaluation. Here are some specific reasons. Curriculum evaluation identifies the strengths and weaknesses of an existing curriculum that will be the basis of the intended plan, design, or implementation. This is referred to as the needs assessment. So, think of needs assessment is a reality check before making changes. It's the process of reading the current curriculum to see what's helping you learn and what's just confusing. By finding these gaps first, educators can design a better plan that actually hits the mark. Second is, when evaluation is done in the middle of the curriculum development, it will tell if the designed or implemented curriculum can produce or is producing the desired results. This is related to monitoring. Think of it as a formative evaluation. It acts like a pulse check during the implementation phase. By monitoring progress while the curriculum is still in motion, educators can identify roadblocks early and make necessary adjustments to ensure the final learning goals are actually achieved. Next is, based on the SAM standards, curriculum evaluation will guide whether the results have equaled or exceeded the standards, thus can be labeled as success. This is sometimes called terminal assessment. This is summative evaluation. It acts like a final verdict by comparing actual students' outcomes against preset benchmarks by checking if the goals were met or exceeded. Educators can officially label the curriculum a success, justifying whether to continue, modify, or replace the program for the next cycle. Curriculum evaluation provides information necessary for teachers, schools, managers, curriculum specialists for policy recommendations that will enhance achieved learning outcomes. This is the basis of decision making. Evaluation acts as a data-driven compass by providing evidence that what's work. It empowers teachers and managers to make informed decisions. These insights lead to a smarter policy recommendation, ensuring resources and teaching methods are strategically adjusted to boost student achievement and overall school success. In curriculum evaluation, important processes were involved such as A. Needs assessment, B. Monitoring, C. Terminal assessment, and lastly, decision making. So, the curriculum evaluation models. Curriculum models by Rod Tyler and Hilda Taba and build evaluation. Evaluation is a big idea that collectively tells about the value or worth of something that was done. How can a merit or worth of an aspect of a curriculum be determined? Curriculum specialists have proposed an array of models which are useful for classroom teachers, and let us look for some of these.
So, good afternoon, everyone. And my topic is Bradley Effectiveness Model. So, Bradley Effectiveness Model was created by L. H. Bradley in 1985. It's used to check if curriculum is effective or good. A curriculum is the plan of what students will learn in school. Next is a vertical curriculum community. So, it means check if the lessons are connected from the grade level to another. The learning should progress step by step. For example, grade 4 science, so means basic concept. Sa grade 5 science naman is a deeper explanation, and the grade 6 science naman is a more advanced topic. So if yes, our lesson is properly, if you know naman, if repeated. Next is horizontal curriculum community. So means is a check if students in the same grade level learn the same content and objectives. For example, sa all first year college student talking English, 101 should learn the same topics and objectives. If yes naman is all classes follow the curriculum. If no naman is class learn is very different topics. Next is the instruction based on curriculum. So, it means naman is dapat lahat ng tinuturo sa classroom ay naka-anchor sa main curriculum. Ang lesson plan is syllabi. Ang mga ito ay hindi lang basta ginagawa, dapat sila ay derive o galing mismo sa curriculum standard at strategies. Sa materials naman, ang mga libro, slides o modules na ginagamit o ay kailangan consolidated or tugma sa content, objective at activities ng lesson. Ang answer ko dito is a yes. Next is a broad involvement. Broad involvement, hindi lang administrator or curriculum expert ang dapat magdidesisyon. At stakeholders naman ang kailangan may ebidensya ng mga teachers, parent at maging mga community ay kasama sa pagplan, pagdesign at pag-review ng curriculum. My answer naman dito is a yes. Next is a long-range planning. Ang long-range planning naman is na curriculum ay hindi static, dapat dumaan sa regular ng review cycle. Ang review cycle naman ay sinusundan ba ang schedule ng pag-evaluate habang ini-implement ng curriculum. Hindi pwede na basta i-apply lang ang curriculum at pabaydan na. Ang answer ko dito is yes. Next is a positive human relation. Positive human relation, dito naman ang titignan kung ang mga idea para sa curriculum ay nanggaling ba sa baba, mga guro at stakeholders, at hindi lang basta inuutos sa taas. Kapag kasali ang mga guro, principal at magulang sa simula pa lang, mas naging collaborative ang paggawa ng curriculum at mas madali itong tanggapin ng lahat. Ang answer ko dito is yes. Next is a theory into practice. Tungkol sa clarify or kalinawan, sinusuri nito ang kung ano mga teorya, vision, mission, learning outcomes ay malinaw na isasalin sa aktwal ng pagtuturo. The last is plan change. Ang plans change naman ay sinusuri nito kung may tangible evidence or konseptong patunay na ang curriculum ay tinatanggap ng pagbubunga ng positive, pagbabago sa loob at labas ng paaralan. Ang answer ko sa plan change is yes.
So this is the continuation of our report. So my topic for today is all about the Tyler objectives or the centered model. So Ralph Tyler in 1950 proposed a curriculum evaluation model which until now continues to influence many curriculum assessment processes. His monograph was entitled Basic Principle of Curriculum and Instruction. So, in using the Tyler's model, the following curriculum components and processes are identified in curriculum evaluation. So, this model was developed by Ralph Tyler in 1950. He created a way to evaluate or assess the curriculum. Even today, many schools still use his idea when planning lessons and checking if students are learning properly. So Tyler wrote a book called A Basic Principle of Curriculum and Instruction, where he explained that education should always start with clear objectives or goal. So the main idea of Tyler's model is very simple now. Before teaching, teacher must first ask, what do we want students to learn? So in Tyler's model now, there are important steps or components in curriculum evaluation. We have here the curriculum elements. The first is the objective intended learning outcomes. So the evaluation process is the predetermined intended learning outcomes or objectives. So first, now the teacher sets a clear objectives or learning outcomes. So these objectives guide what students are expected to learn. So without objective no, the teacher will not know what to teach or measure. So second one is the situation or context. So identify the situation, context that gives opportunity to develop a behavior or achieve objective. So on situation context na, the teacher chooses the learning situation or context such as activities, discussion, or experiments that will help students achieve those objectives. Next, we have here the evaluation instrument or tools. Select, modify, and construct evaluation instrument or tools. Check its objectivity, reliability, and validity. So, on evaluation instrument now, after planning the learning experiences, the teacher prepares evaluation tools like quizzes, tests, project, or rubrics. No? So these tools are used to measure if students really learn. So let's proceed with the utilization of tool. Utilize the tools to obtain result. Compare the result obtained from several instruments before and after to determine the change. So utilization of tools now. The teacher uses these tools by giving assessment and collecting results. So this step gathers actual evidence of students' performance. So next is analysis of result. Analyze the result obtained to determine strengths and weaknesses. Identify possible explanation about the reason for the particular pattern. So once results are collected, now the teacher analyzes them to identify strengths and weaknesses. So the teacher checks which objectives were achieved and which objectives needed an improvement. So let's proceed with the next topic. Daniel Stufflebeam Context Input Process Product Model or the CIPP. The CIPP model of curriculum evaluation was a product of Pi Delta Kappa Committee chaired by Daniel Stufflebeam. The model emphasizes that the result of evaluation should provide data for decision making. So there are 4 stages of program operation. These include the context evaluation, input evaluation, and other evaluation. So later on, I will explain the 4 types of evaluation. So let's proceed with the context evaluation. Context evaluation assesses needs and problems in the context of decision makers to determine the goals and objectives of the program or curriculum. So the purpose of context evaluation is to assess the environment in which the program will operate. Now, So the goal for decision makers is to determine the goals and the objectives of the curriculum. For example, if a context evaluation reveals that the students are struggling with reading comprehension, so the goal of the new curriculum might be improved literacy rates. Next is the input evaluation. Assesses alternative means based on inputs for the achievement of objectives to help decision makers to choose option for optimal means. Input evaluation, the purpose of it is to assess the resources and strategies available to achieve the goals. No? So, the goal for the decision makers now is to choose the optimal plan and allocate resources effectively. For example, comparing two different math textbook or teaching strategies to see which one is more feasible and promising for the school budget and the school population. Let's proceed with the process evaluation. Monitors the processes both to ensure that the means are actually being implemented and make necessary modification. So, process evaluation, the purpose of it is to monitor the implementation of the program. For example, if the teacher are struggling to use a new lab equipment, process evaluation would identify this, allowing administrators to provide just-in-time training. Next is the product evaluation. Compare actual ends with intended ends and lead to a series of recycling decisions. So, product evaluation is to measure and interpret the outcomes of the program. No? For example, comparing the test scores from before and after the new curriculum was implemented to see if the goals set during the context evaluation were met. For all the first stages, the 6 steps are suggested. So step 1, identify the kind of decision to be made. Step 2, identify the kinds of data to make that decision. Step 3, collect the data needed. Step 4, establish the criteria to determine quality of data. Step 5, analyze data based on the criteria. And step 6, organize needed information needed for decision makers.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Trisha Micatarong, and this is the continuation of our report. Let's begin with the Stake Responsive Model developed by Robert Stake in 1975. Stake Responsive Model. Responsive model is oriented more directly to program activities than program intents. Evaluation focuses more on the activities rather than intent or purposes. This model is different from others because it focuses on the concerns and issues of the people involved in the curriculum, like teachers, students, school heads, and parents. Instead of starting with fixed questions, the evaluator first listens to what the stakeholders have to say. Robert Stake, 1975, recommends the following step to the curriculum. Step 1, meets with stakeholders to identify their perspectives and intentions regarding curriculum evaluation. First, the evaluator meets with stakeholders to identify their perspectives and intentions regarding the curriculum evaluation. This means the evaluators ask them, what do you think, what are your concerns, and what do you want to achieve. Step 2, draws from Step 1 documents to determine the scope of the evaluation. Second, based on those meetings, the evaluators draw from the documents or notes gathered to determine the scope of the evaluation. This means deciding what specific areas or issues to focus on. Step 3, observes the curriculum closely to identify the attended sense of implementation and any deviation from announced intents. Third, the evaluator observes the curriculum closely. The goal here is to identify any attended outcomes or deviations from what was originally planned. In other words, the evaluator checks if what is happening in reality matches what was announced or attended. Step 4, identifies the stated real purposes of the program and the various audience. Fourth, the evaluators identifies the stated and real purposes of the program as well as the various audience it serves. This helps clarify what the curriculum is actually trying to achieve and who its affects. Step 5, identifies the problems of the curriculum evaluation at hand and identifies and evaluation designed with needed data. Fifth, the evaluator identifies the problems of the curriculum evaluation at hand and designs the evaluation including what data needs to be collected. Step 6 selects the means needed to collect data or information. 6. The evaluator selects the means or tools needed to collect data like surveys, interviews, observations, form, or checklists. Step 7 implements the data collection procedure. 7. The evaluator implements the data collection procedure. This means actually going out and gathering the information. Step 8 organizes the information into thems. 8. After collecting the data, the evaluator organizes the information into thems or patterns that emerge from the responses. Step 9 decides what stakeholders the most appropriate formats for the report. 9 and finally, the evaluator decides what the stakeholders the most appropriate formats for the report. This could be a written report, a presentation, or a meeting to discuss the findings. Scriven consumer-oriented evaluation. Michael Scriven in 1967 introduced this evaluation among many others. When education products flooded the market, consumers of educational often use consumer-oriented evaluation. These products are used products which are needed to support an implemented curriculum in school, which required a purchasing decision. These products include textbook, modules, educational technology, like software and other instructional materials. Even teachers in school themselves nowadays write and produce these materials for their own purposes. This model was introduced by Michael Scriven in 1967. During that time, many educational products flooded the market like textbook, modules, and software. Schools needed a way to evaluate these products before buying them, just like how consumers check products before purchasing. Consumer-oriented evaluation uses criteria and checklists as a tools for either formative or summative evaluation purposes. This use of criteria and checklists was proposed by Scriven for adoption by educational evaluators. Scriven proposed that evaluators should use criteria and checklists to judge whether a product is good or not. This can be done for two purposes. Formative evaluation, done while developing the materials to improve it. Summative evaluation, done after the materials is finished to decide whether to buy or use it. An example of instructional material review form by Marvin Patterson of Florida State University is adapted for better understanding. Now let's move on to the instructional materials review form. Let me explain the parts of the instructional materials review form which was adapted from Marvin Patterson of Florida State University. First, we have the preliminary information section. This includes the title of the material, the author, the publisher, the copyright date, and the name of the material evaluator. This section simply identifies what is being reviewed and who is doing the review. Next is the recommendation section. Here, the evaluator has two choices: retain for further review or reject. If the material is rejected, the evaluator can write comments explaining why. Rating or checklist. At the bottom, there is a note that says use the following codes to rate the material. Plus means yes or good quality. Circle means all right but not of good quality. Minus means no or poor quality. NA means not applicable. In short, this form helps teachers and schools choose the best materials for students. It serves as a quality check before any textbook, module, or software is used in the classroom. And that's all.